Presenting Thunderbird 1962. Now in a new sporting edition. The Thunderbird Sports Roadster. Its beauty is brave. Its cockpit a seat for action. With slipstream headrests sculptured for a swiftly flowing line. A fiery Thunderbird V8 engine is leashed to your fingertips, eager for flight.
Hey everybody out there in YouTube land, welcome back to Richard's Toy Room once again. And once again, we're doing a plastic model kit review and build. This is, as far as I know, this is the latest release as of the making of this video. I've always wanted this kit. This is the 1962 Ford Thunderbird by AMT. Now I'm not familiar with the history of this kit. I don't know when this was first released, if this is something that was made in the 60s or if this is a more modern kit or not. I really don't know anything about it at all. But I do know that I've wanted this kit for quite a few years, so I imagine it has to have been out for at least 15-20 years. Anyway, this is the 2-in-1 customizing kit. You can build it stock or custom. As you may or may not know, I always build my kits stock. So that's the custom version. Looks like it's kind of lowered and it's got these ugly pinstripes on it. Drop spindles, Fender Skirts. Now they did come with Fender Skirts as an option. So that'll have to be part of the research to see whether or not this is something I'm going to put on this kit or not. Now this is, at least according to the box, the Roadster. Now the difference between the regular Thunderbird convertible and the Roadster is this fiberglass on the real car tonneau cover that covers the rear seat, so it makes it look like a two-seater car. And there was also a few other minor details on it that set it apart. They call it a sport roadster, and had actual real wire wheels, not hubcaps. These were real wire wheels. And I know there was a grab bar where the in the glove box area in front of the passenger side seat. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, there was a three two-barrel carburetor setup, but I'm not sure if that was an option or if that was something that came standard on the Sport Roadster. My memory's kind of cloudy on that. And I didn't look through the parts in the kit to see if that was even included in here or not. I believe that would have been a 427, if my memory serves me right. Anyway, so let's take a look at the kit and see what we got. So first up, the instructions. Well, this is a big sheet. You're seeing it for the first time along with myself. Yeah, this is a big sheet of instructions. Well, actually it doesn't need to be that big because the pictures are really big. So anyway, it's just like you see here. It's a large sheet with two sides. I think overall I kind of prefer the smaller sheets that are more like a booklet. They're a little easier to work with. But the plus on this is, at least the way I do it, I don't know if it's a good idea or not, I kind of use it as a drop cloth. So in case I spill some glue or some paint, I don't get it on my work surface. Not that this thing would probably get too marred up anyway. This is one of those cutting mats. Unfortunately, not to go off on a tangent, but I bought this really beautiful cutting mat and it was flat as a pane of glass until, I don't know if you can see this in the camera or not, but it got it's bubbling up, like it's not flat anymore, and I don't know what happened. It was perfectly fine until we had some remodeling done in the house, and it was on this desk, and they put this desk out on the deck for the day or two while they were doing some work, and I'm wondering if maybe the sun caused this to happen to this mat. I don't know. It's a little disappointing because it was so nice and flat to work on. Now, you know, I'm trying to work on things and they're kind of like, they won't sit flat anymore. But I mean, it's still usable, but sorry, going off on a tangent. So anyway, the instructions here, they give you, let's see. Oh yeah, they do give you the 3 2-barrel carburetor setup here, and that is the stock. I think that's the stock, because it doesn't say it's a. It doesn't say it's a custom engine or not. It just says option. So triple 2-barrel carb option, single 4-barrel carb option. Everything else looks, maybe it's the same engine. Maybe it's a 390 with 3 2-barrels. I may be mistaken on my 427 comment. Anyway, so there you go. So it does include that. Anyway, I know on the real car that's a very rare option. This has this big chrome air cleaner cover and all that. So then you move to the wire wheels. It's got knockoff caps. And there's the option for the custom wheels. And move on to the interior. This is a nice one. It's got all separate components. The seats and the console and the side panels and the firewall and the dash. That's good. And I like this too when they give you all the separate exhaust and control arms and stuff like that underneath to it's not all molded in. It makes it look more realistic. Not that you really flip over the car and look at it that much, but I know. Here's your axle and other parts. Flip over to the back. And they give you a separate windshield cowl, or whatever you want to call it, windshield frame. And also with the vent window frames. Give you washer, bag, battery. Here's the Fender Skirts. You know, now that I'm thinking about it, if I remember right, I think the Sport Roadster did not come with Fender Skirts because the wire wheels wouldn't clear them. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that is something you really would leave off then for doing the Sports Roadster. I'll double check on that before I get that far. So let's see, next up would be, let's see, you got like the heater hoses and stuff like that, the radiator and hood, and then you can, here's the tonneau cover, and then it's got the convertible top. I like when they give you that. I've had some kits where they didn't give you the convertible top, because I like kind of sometimes putting it on, sometimes taking it off. See, and it's nice because on a convertible, when you got that, you can pull the top off and look in and see the work that you've done on the interior and the dash. And makes you feel like it's actually worth doing all that detailing. You got your bumper, headlights, taillights, and that's about it. And then whatever decals you may want to put on. So actually, it's not that not too complicated. And what actually the funny thing is, the reason I picked this car to do next is because these Thunderbirds were very light on chrome for the era of the car. I mean, most other cars of this era were just laden with chrome. I mean, it was just like dripping off the cars. This car had understated chrome on it, not overdone. So anyway, there's your instructions. And before we get to the other parts, let's go over the rest of the paper that came with it. You got a mailing list postcard you can send in to round 2, and oh wow, 2013. So I guess this isn't exactly the freshest kid on the block here. Again, this was a Christmas gift, so it may have been sitting in somebody's shelf for a while, a warehouse, whatever. But either way, I mean, they've probably re-released it since then, at least once, I would imagine. That's what, 6 years now? Yeah, or at least if they haven't, it's due for another re-release. But anyway, That's the other paperwork that's in there. And then the decals, here's your decal sheet. I will not be using any of these ugly decals except for the gauges and probably these 1962 license plate ones, and these I'll save. I'll definitely have some use for, or at least the top four on some other kits, because it's always having trouble finding period looking license plate decals for a kit. Yeah, I mean, it's not that they're bad decals, it's just I don't like them. Now let's move on to the tires, get that out of the way, and then we'll move on to the plastic parts. So you get two sets of tires. Here's your regular tires. They are, let's see what name is on them. They're BF Goodrich's, and they have the white wall inserts in them. I like that. And these, I'm guessing, are the custom tires. I have never seen tires like this wrapped up in a model kit before. I'm kind of curious as to why they would do that. Well, let's see what's in here. I mean, I know what's in here. It's tires, but let's see why they're so wrapped up like King Tut here. Oh, damn. Nice white walls on there. But they're modern tires, so these are definitely the custom tires. So I will not be using these, but you never know. I might have a use for these in the future. I wonder why they packed them like this, though. Anyway, well, let's wrap them back up and leave them like that until I need them. Well, except for the body, this is all the white parts, body and the frame. Well, not frame, this is a unibody car, so the body and the chassis pan. There were two plastic bags full of parts, white parts, in this kit. And then there was a bag with the clear and the red, and then the chrome parts. And one with the body and chassis. So let's see what we got here. We'll start with the big one here. Okay, here we got a nice dashboard, firewall, engine parts, console, motor. Pretty good. Here's your, this is one of the parts that fell off, is one of the shocks. So you got your rear axle and some exhaust parts there, and some suspension parts. There's some more suspension parts, more exhaust, then your steering column and steering wheel. This one's got some flash on it. So that may indicate that this kit's a little older than I thought, but maybe not. There's your hoses, some more engine parts, some spindles, wheels, or wheel backs it looks like actually. These are for the to hold the wheels on, front seats. Those look like wheel backs too. Maybe one are custom and one are standard. More engine parts, some more wheel hub holders. Here's your rear seat and your interior door panels. Those are pretty decent. I mean, I've seen a lot worse. And your looks like probably your under hood brace, and well, that's under hood brace. Not sure what that part is off the top of my head. Here are your fender skirts and some more springs. So there must be some optional spring. Oh, maybe that's why one is lowered. Here's your white wall tire. Why are there 5? That's interesting. Anyway, I guess in case you screw one up, I don't know. Anyway, they give you 5 white wheel tire inserts. This part fell off in the bag too. That's your headrests for the... Can't pick it up. Your headrests for the tonneau cover. I believe this is the cover itself. Yes. There's that. And got your nice hood there, and your convertible top. Got a nice texture to that, and this looks like some front suspension parts. It looks like. I can't tell if those are warped or if they're supposed to look like that. Those look bent. I guess we'll find out when we put it together, because that really looks warped to me. Oh. Last white parts. You've got your... Whoa, look at the roll on that. No, that's my stupid board. It's nice and flat. But it's got some nice detailing on it. Now see, actually this would have been nice, a place where if they could have gave you some decals here for this really tiny Thunderbird script. That's going to be a pain to paint in. But overall, looks pretty nice. And here's your chassis pan. Got your typical detailing on the bottom there. Pretty solid. Next up is your clear and red. It's a little difficult to see always, but you got your windshields and headlights and side glass, and these look like maybe optional headlights or fog lights or something. And I'm not sure why they give you 2 tail lights. Well, they are slightly different, so one of them's obviously stock and the other one's probably custom. And then chrome. Here's your custom wheels. You got a chrome air cleaner. It's nice that they put this piece of tissue paper in here to keep them from getting scratched together in the bag. These look pretty decent. Nicely chromed. Here's your wire wheels, your air cleaner, and of course your front and rear bumpers and some other miscellaneous parts here. It looks like wiper blades and an antenna and a couple other minor parts there. So anyway, looks like a really nice kit, and I look forward to building it. I probably shouldn't have put everything in the box top so I could show you that again as I talk over the end of this segment. So next up will likely be an update on the progress and if I've run into any problems or if it's going smoothly. So stay tuned. Well, here's an update on the Thunderbird 62. At this point, I'm thoroughly pissed off at this kit. For most of the building of this kit, I enjoyed it. It was very detailed, it was going together well, and now I get to this point where I'm almost done, and this body will not fit on this chassis. That's the biggest problem. I don't think this thing's going to look good when it's done. That's really a shame because this is kind of one of my favorite cars of all time. In fact, I had a 64 and a 66 myself. But anyway, I'll show you the problem on this. So, I'm not going to put it on right now. But when you put the body on the frame, it fits perfectly fine in the back. It was fitting okay on the driver's side. It would not completely fit flush in the front. And on this side, it was just atrocious. I mean, it was like an 1/8 of an inch, 1/16 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch. It had to go down more. I was just flustered with this thing because I couldn't figure out what the heck was wrong with it. When I started looking a little closer, I noticed that this side of the windshield was closer to the cowl frame than this side. I flipped it over and it was on the pins. There's 2 pins and 2 holes that it's supposed to line up with under here. And it was positioned properly, but for some reason it doesn't line up right when you put it together, and it keeps you from pushing it down all the way. So I had to go in here and trim the hell out of this bottom of this windshield frame, how the way it mounts. I've never seen one that actually mounted like this either. I don't know if it's because it's a convertible or what. This part of the kit, when I got to this part, this is where I started having issues that I didn't like. The windshield is made in 3 parts. You get the 2 vent windows and then the frame. And the frame didn't want to fit right to begin with. It didn't look right. So when you put the vent windows in, they didn't kind of sit flush down where they're supposed to. And on top of that, the glass, they made it so small, I mean not small, but like the tolerance for where it fits in the frame is just minuscule on the edges. So if you don't get it positioned exactly right, you're going to have like a gap somewhere showing on this glass between the frame. So I got it as best as I could. And it doesn't want to stay in there either while you're gluing it. So it was not fun. So anyway, so I had to trim this to get this to fit. So I finally got it where it would fit down properly as best as I could get it. And then I test fit the tonneau cover that covers the rear seats. And when I put this in, it doesn't fit right either, because it fits in this gap back here. It's supposed to fit like that, so that it looks like a seamless part of the body. But the seat sticks up, and this is all put in properly. Nothing's out of place or skewed or anything like that. It sits up, and it's like it's supposed to sit down into this lip and fit flush, but it sits up. And you can see around it. Then on top of that, I put the optional convertible top on just to see how it would look. It looks like hell from the side. And from the back, you may not be able to see this, but I think you can. You see how it doesn't even fit against the body. There's like a huge gap there. It's terrible. It's just terrible. Even practicing around with the rear bumper on here earlier before, it doesn't look like it's going to be much fun to get on there either. And also the little emblem or molding that goes in for the hood scoop here doesn't quite fit very well. It's just a nightmare at this point of the kit. Before that I liked it. At this point, I'm getting to the point where I think I'm probably going to have to not recommend this kit. I mean, unless you like doing an excessive amount of modifications. So anyway, that's where I am with this. I mean, I was hoping to be done with it by now. And I'm going to have to retouch up all this trim because I had to finger it to death putting this on and off. So I dulled it all up, but luckily, I mean, it's just a matter of the high point, so I'll just have to just go over it with the marker real quick, and that should shine it up real good, and it shouldn't be any issue and cause any problems with my my taped off lines. Plus, I got fingerprints all over this, but they should polish out easily. So anyway, I got a little bit more to go on this. I got a few more parts to put on, put the body on, obviously, and polish it up, and paint a few more details. I got to do this pinstripes on, or the moldings on the side, and a couple other minor things, and then it's done. So when next you see it, it should be all completely finished. And here we are with the reveal. Well, you heard how I complained in the last segment, and there were a few more issues in this final assembly as well. Amazingly, though, I didn't have any trouble at all. Well, any trouble I had was just my own issues of, you know, shaky hands or whatever, but doing the side trim, painting that, because taping off these tiny little lines was kind of tedious and hard for me anyway. I just, you know, like my sometimes my hands aren't as steady, and it's hard for me to really get it. I use these things just to see what I'm doing because everything's so tiny, and it does help. But anyway, getting at, I just want to go over the whatever I didn't touch on already. One of the things I hated about this kit was the instructions themselves, and there was like no step order whatsoever. I know in the last kit I kind of complained about that, even though there were step numbers in the last kit, but it was combined with text that was like put down in like a random paragraph in the bottom of the instructions that kind of, I don't want to say they contradict each other, but they you know, it would have been nice to have all the information together, or you know, one or the other. Say, hey, you know, read the instructions and have it in text and say, number one, do this, if you're going to put it all in text, and then just refer to the diagram, or, you know, don't have the text, because if you're like, anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. Because one of the problems I ran into with that being an issue was because under the hood, probably won't be able to see this, but I'll kind of try to point it out. Under the hood here, you have some heater hoses that run along here and some AC hoses that run along here. Well, in the instructions, it makes it look like you're supposed to put all this stuff in first, then put the body onto the chassis. Oh my God, that was a nightmare. You couldn't get these giant shock towers past these hoses. I mean, I did manage to by tweaking and flexing and kind of just managing to get it past that, but obviously if they would have said put these in afterwards, it would have been a lot easier. I mean, you couldn't put the radiator in, you had to put that in first, and they showed all that stuff together. So anyway, it is highly detailed in here. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love this kit up until the point what I said in the last segment about putting the windshield cowl on. Up until that, I thought it was going to be a great kit. After that, everything just went downhill like a roller coaster with no brakes. Other issues I had with this kit, the rear bumper just didn't want to quite fit on there right. I was able, luckily, to somehow be able to hold it in place. It almost wanted to like tweak. and I'm not sure if it was the bumper, if it was the body, or a combination of the two, whatever it was. I mean, it's not like anything like really snapped into place where you can just like, snap it and glue it and then it'll dry. It was kind of like you glue it and you hold it. If you let go, it kind of popped off. You know what I mean? Same thing with the front bumper. And I had to do a lot of trimming to get those to fit right. I'm still not even 100% satisfied with this front bumper. But anyway, the other issue I had, I don't remember which side happened. I don't even know how this happened, but I mean, I do know how it happened, but I don't know how the second part I'm about to tell you happened. The wheels have these little hubs that you glue onto the spindles or whatever, and they're supposed to be rollable. It's supposed to be a rollable model. And as I was gluing, you got to put the wheel and all those parts together first, and then you glue that. Just put some glue on that hub and put it on the spindle. Well, I forgot that that was a totally hollow tube. It wasn't like a cup where if you just put some glue in it, it wouldn't go through into the rest of the wheel. Well, what happened was I put probably too much glue in it, pushed it on, and it pushed the glue into the rest of the wheel, which thereby locked the wheels, basically glued them into place. But somehow, as I was farting around with this, trying to get this thing to tweak, I broke free. Must be this side. I think they're moving. Yeah, this side still don't move. Over here, this side broke free for some reason. I don't know why. Anyway, so it doesn't roll, but those two wheels on the left side do move. The decal sheet on this sucked. All they gave you of any real use were the speedometer decals. Everything else was just decorative pinstripes and stuff, which I didn't use, and the license plate frames. Now this would have been one kit where it would have been very much preferred for them to give you like these Thunderbird fender decals and the Sport Roadster decal underneath it. These were like impossible to paint. They're so tiny. I mean, I basically just kind of smudged my tiniest paintbrush across there just so it kind of, from 20 feet away it would look like, some writing, but you get right up on it and it basically looks like I went, I mean, it looks terrible. Same thing with the emblem on the trunk and the hood, the Thunderbird emblem. Terrible, terribly hard to paint. The one in the trunk was the detail was so shallow on it that it barely looked like an outline, and my hand was shaking while I was doing it, so it looked even worse. The front one I was able to kind of salvage a little bit. It doesn't look half as bad. But a decal in those two would have been much appreciated over trying to paint these tiny little details. It was horrible, horrible. This stupid top I showed you in the last segment does not fit right. I mean, if you're looking at it from, like the angle I'm looking at it from here, or maybe from the front, it looks fine. But if you really get in there and look at it, you can see that it looks terrible. It doesn't look real at all. And then as far as the tonneau cover, it actually didn't come out too bad. I mean, it could have been better, but I think it's not in the right spot for some reason. There. It actually came out a little better than I expected after the trying it back and forth. So I'm okay with that. I mean, it could have been better, but it's acceptable. So my complaint about that I can half remove. I mentioned the windshield issue and the body to chassis issue. That was just an absolute nightmare. And the last two things that I had an issue with on this kit were the rear view mirrors and the antenna. This antenna was so fragile that, and I'm really careful. I mean, I barely touched my knife to the piece of plastic holding this to the sprue, and it broke in half. It was terrible. And I tried gluing it, and it just wouldn't hold, and it looked terrible anyway. So all I did was just throw the top piece away, and I touched up the chrome on it, and I put it in as a antenna in the fully down position. These do stick up a little bit. I can't remember exactly how high. I had a 64 Thunderbird, and you pushed the antenna down all the way and it didn't go all the way in. So we'll pretend that that's just a non-extended antenna. And the mirrors, the way they were molded was the lenses were facing each other on the sprue, and they were so bad that it almost looked like one part, and there was almost like a cylinder. Clear, completely one half of the surface, the glass surface of these mirrors was a piece of plastic that I had to, and they're really, really fragile, and it's lucky I didn't break them. I had to cut them apart and then sand them flat, and then obviously touch up the glass with some chrome paint. But anyway, that's basically the issues that I had with the kit. I don't know. I'm on the fence on recommending whether or not you pick this kit up. I mean, maybe I got a lemon. I don't know. Maybe they're not all like this, but I mean, I wasn't overly enthused about it after that point that I mentioned. So that's the end of the review. Let me, I'm going to leave this off. I'm going to get the camera in a little closer here, give you some a little better close-up views before we close out the video. I promise a rotating tripod like the HPI guy's workshop is on my list of things to get. That will help show these off a little better. But for now, you're going to have to deal with my old-fashioned way of doing things. So, let's see. A lot of detail in this kit. Just some very poor engineering. See if I can show you the underside here real quick. The kit's not lopsided, it's the stupid mat that I mentioned in the previous video, but that's what it looks like without the two-seater cover, sports roadster cover on it. Roadster. So there we go, the 1962 Ford Thunderbird Sports Roadster. Hope you enjoyed this review and join me for more. This will probably be the last model kit I'm going to do for maybe at least a month, I think. This depends, I might jump back into them. I've got tons of miles to do, but I want to do some more toy videos and maybe one on the Lincoln Continental. I got to redo the carburetor on that because it's leaking gas. So fear not, there will be more model videos, but they might not be for a few weeks from now. So subscribe, tell a friend, come again. Thanks for watching. Oops, one last thing. I was just about to upload this video and I realized I'll have someone complaining that I didn't tell them what paints I used. It's something I got to get used to. So very quickly, I used the Rust-Oleum white primer. I used the the Krylon black gloss for the body. I used some semi-gloss black and some flat black and silver on the exhaust stuff. I used this Krylon blue gloss for the Ford engine. I used a little bit of this Testors Model Master Sunburst Red for the washer bag. And then I used a white gloss for the interior parts and the semi-gloss white for the convertible top. And I believe that's it, except for maybe a couple of minor acrylic craft paints for some touch-up like blacking out the grill and touching up the turquoise blue on the Thunderbird emblem, stuff like that. And obviously the Molotov chrome paint pens.
This is Thunderbird 1962, now in 4 new models. 4-passenger hardtop, convertible, the distinguished new Landau with leather grain vinyl top. This is Thunderbird 1962.